Wayne Allyn Root is the former Libertarian Party's vice presidential nominee. It's been a while since we spoke to him. And, Wayne, I was kind of bummed out this morning preparing for the interview because I was ready for you to come on and explain how, Donald Trump is not in line with libertarian beliefs and free market beliefs. And this morning, I got this video from Right Wing Watch with you saying that Donald Trump is the greatest conservative president in history, which not only did it seem hyperbolic for 8 days into the presidency, but also it seemed like it just fundamentally doesn't line up with your worldview. I mean, what has attracted you so much to Donald Trump, given your libertarian background?
Well, first of all, don't forget, I'm not trying to fit him in, a round peg into a square hole. Nothing in that article said he's the most libertarian president in the history of America. I said after 7 days, after 1 week in office, it was written last week, he was on his way to becoming the most conservative president, the greatest conservative president in American history. In 1 week, he did a lot of amazing things for conservatives from a conservative perspective. I didn't get involved in libertarian aspect of it, but I think when it comes to business and capitalism and conservative values, this guy is fantastic. He's more conservative than any liberal would have ever imagined when they said day and night, oh, he's not what he says he is. He's just pretending he's a New York liberal who gave checks to Schumer and Clinton. And I knew, because I had a friendship with Donald Trump, that he was actually very conservative and very pro-business.
Okay, fine. But what I'd like to focus on is sort of the interaction between the policies and your free market beliefs. And before we jump into that, I mean, you still are a free market guy, right? Even though you're talking about conservatism, but you were the Libertarian Party's vice presidential nominee, and you're big on the free market, right?
I am, but you're probably going to focus now. I could smell what's coming, David.
Yeah.
You're going to focus on free trade, and that's a very small part of what I was talking about. 90% of what I'm talking about has nothing to do with free trade. It was
no, that's fine. I mean, listen, we don't have to talk about free trade. Obviously, tariffs on Mexico, the prevention of free movement of labor and products, that we could talk about that, but let's skip that. I mean, like, for example, how does free market libertarian leaning Wayne Allyn Root react to President Trump giving money to Carrier in a way that is completely against allowing the free market to decide where it's best for Carrier to do business? That's the government getting very, very involved in private business, isn't it? How could you support that as someone who believes in the free market?
Listen, Trump, before he became president, the 2 months between being elected and taking the oath of office, in those 2 months, he was the most active president-elect and president-to-be in the history of America. And he was active with one thing: keeping jobs in America. He ran on that platform. Any way he could, he would keep jobs in America, keep them from moving offshore.
But just not the free market, not the free market, though.
I don't think giving tax cuts to somebody, tax breaks, is the same thing, David, as anti-free market or free trade or its government involvement. When you let me keep more of my own money, that's a tax break.
Okay, right. But Wayne. Okay. Let's just step back for a second, though, okay? And here, I think that this is where it's important to focus not on whether we call it a tax break or a handout or whatever. What I wanted you to explain to me is, what is the overarching free market principle that defends hand-selecting companies to give money to, right? You're not changing the broader economic conditions. You're saying, hey, here's one company that I want to announce we save jobs with. Take money. And whether it's a tax cut or a credit or a giveaway or free stuff, whatever it is, that's not free market policy to pick one company and give them money.
All I'm going to argue to you is it's a mindset. We've had 8 years of Obama. I said this in my last interview with you. My last interview with you, I remember saying, my business can't survive this guy. He's a disaster. And
wait a second. Yes, let's talk about that, Wayne. Let's
rewarding successful people. That's not a bad thing. That's a great thing.
Pat, please bring the Advil. Oh my goodness, Wayne. But let me talk about that for a second. Let me talk about that. I interviewed. Hold on a second, Wayne. Hold on a second. I interviewed you a bunch of times during the Obama presidency, and every single time you were talking about how your businesses were getting killed by President Obama. Right. Hold on. And here we are. President Trump has been here for 7 days. You must have just barely avoided declaring bankruptcy after those 8 years of Obama, right? I mean, just in time, Trump came in and swooped in and saved your businesses.
You're laughing because you think that might be some sort of a joke, when in reality, it's true. It actually is true. My businesses, everything I'm involved in is so far down that it's a disaster, and I didn't know how I could hang on much longer.
What's
And
crazy
thank
though
God
is
Trump
if
is here.
that's true, Wayne, you'd think you would have downsized your office or maybe gotten some cheaper suits, but everything looks, at least in this shot, it's the exact same that it's been for 8 years that I've been interviewed you. It seems if you were almost on the edge of losing everything, it's certainly not reflected by everything I'm reading and seeing about you. And what has changed now in the last 7 days to save your businesses?
Well, how about today? How
Yeah.
about as we do this interview today,
Yeah.
Donald Trump signed an executive order that freezes, there will be no new regulations in the year 2017.
Okay.
But more importantly, every time there's a new regulation, he's asked every agency to cut 2 regulations for every 1 new one. This is music to a businessman's ears. This is the greatest news I've ever heard in my entire adult life.
Yeah.
Ever.
Hey,
Ever.
Wayne, here, let me, I want to, let's see, I want to have this conversation sort of in a more abstract, politically philosophical way. During the run up to Donald Trump's election, one of the sort of trends was Trump stated that he can fix every problem, right? And he even said, we have problems that I alone can fix. That is fundamentally the opposite of free market libertarian ideals. He's saying government with me as president is the solution to every problem. No libertarian believes that, do they?
Listen, you're asking me questions that philosophically I
Make
would agree
perfect
with.
sense.
In
Yeah.
reality, you've got a brilliant billionaire businessman who outmaneuvered 16 brilliant Republican politicians, proving my argument in all of my prior books.
Oh, yeah?
that
Which one was
politicians
brilliant?
Politicians can't compete with businessmen or women. They're not even on the same page. We run rings around them, and you got to put a businessman or woman in charge of America. It'll make a big difference.
But that's not an answer. That's not an answer, though.
Philosophically, I agree with you. Philosophically, I want less government, and if that means a government brilliant politician who runs government shouldn't be involved, and he should let the free market do what the free market does. Theoretically, that's exactly right. In reality, that's what Donald Trump, as a strong president, will do. He'll kill government and get it out of the way. I love the fact, the very thing you hate is what I love. He's put people in charge of every cabinet position who hate the cabinet agency they're in charge of, want to downsize it, or kill it completely and make it go away.
But that aside, I mean, it's insane to say that you should put people in charge who want to destroy the agencies they're running. But let's just take one example though. Let's take one example and step aside from Rick Perry's running the department he thinks shouldn't exist and you love it. Here's just one example, okay? Gary Cohn is one of Trump's top economic advisors.
I know he is, Goldman Sachs.
Okay. No, forget about Goldman Sachs though. It's the idea that he was a huge recipient of government bailout money during the 2008 crisis. He is the epitome of taxpayer money being given to companies, again, so that they will avoid what might be a free market that dictates they would face a bankruptcy. As a free market guy, how can you support that?
Let me give you my answer. First of all, I've weighed in on pretty much every Donald Trump cabinet appointment, and I've said again and again in the media, I love them all except for Steve Mnuchin and Gary Cohn, because they're Goldman Sachs guys, and I personally am not a fan of Goldman Sachs or Wall Street for that matter, and their manipulation and their influence on government. So I'll let it just sit there and we'll see. My guess is Donald Trump's brilliant. I've never disagreed with any decision so far that he's made. So he probably knows things I don't know, and probably he's put people in charge of the swamp who understand how to beat the swamp and drain it because they've been part of it. My guess is that was his thinking, and we'll soon find out. That's all I can say.
Are you a busy day over at Root Enterprises today? I can tell. Hey, are you against the 20% tariff on Mexico? I mean, as a free market guy, I'm sure you understand how that will just make products more expensive in the United States. Trade wars rarely benefit the little guy. I'm sure you're against that, right?
Once again, I'm on record as saying, it's nothing new on your show. I've written many times and I've said many times in the media that I, in general, support free market, NAFTA, things like that sound great. The words free trade sound great. But what if it's a lie? What if the name is a misnomer?
Okay, but that's not what but Wayne, the question is a different one. The question is, as a guy who purports to understand economics, you agree a 20% tariff on Mexican goods makes products more expensive for Americans, and it only creates a situation in which Mexico can then counteract by either boycotting American companies, not allowing cheaper production of you get how it backfires, right?
I get how it can backfire, and I always have argued that Herbert Hoover exasperated the Great Depression by dramatically raising taxes and using tariffs.
Wait,
And using tariffs
exasperated.
as well. As well. Regulations, taxes, and tariffs are what Hoover did to exasperate the Great Depression. However, in this case, China, India, and
now
Mexico are clobbering American business and American jobs, and something's got to be done to level the playing field. And we have allowed Mexico to walk all over us for 20 years now, and something's got to be done. And my guess is, I've said this again and again, I don't believe you're ever going to see for a long period of time tariffs by Trump on either India, Mexico, or China. He's going to threaten or he's going to implement them for a short period, and they will be brought to their knees, and then they will come back to the table and negotiate a much more beneficial deal for the American people. This guy's a brilliant negotiator, Donald Trump. And I have faith in him. I really do. I think it's all going to work out for the best.
Well, there's definitely been an exacerbation of my exasperation with this conversation. That I think we could all be sure of. Wayne Allyn Root, former Libertarian Party vice presidential nominee. It's all happening today at Root Enterprises. Thanks so much for talking to me. It's always interesting.
Yes, and if you want my opinion, just go to the website, rootforamerica.com. I weigh in on everything, and I'm not shy, and I don't change my opinions and flip-flop depending on the interview I'm on.
Right.
And I am for free trade, but I think it's a misnomer. Most free trade deals are not free trade. They screw over American workers, and I'm sick of it, and I was fed up with it, and that's why I supported Donald Trump for president. And now he's doing exactly what he said he'd do. I love the guy. I think it's going to be great.
Hey, what day do you predict America will be great again? Have you forecast that?
Well, to be honest with you, in the last week, it's feeling pretty good to me.
So it's already happened. It's happened quick.
It's already happening. It's not happened. It's not in past tense. We're not great yet, back to the old days, but we're getting there. Everything's in motion to make America great again, safe again, and prosperous again.
All right. If Wayne Allyn Root has convinced you, please let me know. Send me an email. We'll take a break. Back after this.